given this topic to sum the day up, and I'm still not exactly sure what I should do with it, so I'm just going to do something. But it's paths and opportunities for forage-based farms, financing, growing the business, and transition to the next generation. I told you a little bit before about Yon Family Farms being a first-generation farm. My wife and I had the similar goals, and that's very important, is finding that spouse or that partner that shares similar goals. They don't have to love it as good as you or be as passionate about it, but at the very least, they've got to be understanding of what we do. We were told, or I was always told, and you've heard it too. Remember, I finished high school in the mid-'80s. The farm crisis was very tough then. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure I could do it. But I've heard all my life, the only way you can really get into agriculture is to be born into it. It would be impossible for someone just to start a farm and be successful. Well, I'm about as... run the battery out of it. How about that? That works. I'm about as, I don't know Mr. Ruff, but earlier today he said he was hard-headed, and I didn't doubt it for a minute. But I'm probably about that hard-headed, and married a gal that is more hard-headed than I. And, we're kind of the ones that don't tell us what we can't do, because we're just determined to try to prove you wrong. And Walt Disney said it best. He said, I wasn't wise enough. How do you put that? I wasn't wise enough to know what I shouldn't be able to do. And so sometimes we just got to do it. I had mentioned that all three of our children were raised there on the farm. They too helped build the farm. Every step of the way, they understood what they were getting into. They thought that Lydia and I was the meanest, roughest parents that ever was. They tell us often about how their friends didn't have to work after school and that kind of thing. And today they don't think it's quite so bad. When we set out to build Yon Family Farms, Lydia and I mentioned we shared the same goal, and we made some early on decisions. We decided that if things worked out and if things panned out, we wanted to build a farm that was big enough to sustain some additional help so that we just as a family wouldn't always be tied to the farm. So we could do Forage activities or go overnight or a few days to a cattle show or coach Little League ball. And that was a conscious decision we made. There's nothing wrong in the world that if we had made the decision we want to keep this thing just family, there's nothing wrong with that. And historically, that's the way family farms have been. But we chose to go another path. Looking back, there's advantages either way. But we chose to do that. It was our goal to build an operation that would be big enough to sustain if any one of the, or all three of the children decided to come back. And that didn't mean that we needed to have things just right ready for them to waltz right back into the operation and have a position. We made it clear that if they wanted to come back, it was never a birthright. It was going to be a work right. That they just couldn't come back and get a position. They had to go off and learn skills and bring back something of value. Because the pie is only so big, and when you've got more people wanting a piece of pie, then the pie's got to get bigger. Mom and Daddy we still got to have a little piece of the pie. So we made a rule at our place that if any of the kids wanted to come back, and they worked summers and worked after school and weekends, worked them like government mules, but we made a decision, we made a rule at our household, if you wanted to come back, you had to leave and stay gone at least 4 years. And those 4 years could be the military, they could be college, and we encourage institutions of higher learning, or they could just be going out to work somewhere else. All three of our children, like their mom and daddy, went off to Clemson University. They all, my daughter studied ag education, went to Oklahoma State, got a master's in ag communication. We didn't think she would ever come back. I guess it helped. The young tall buck that she married was working on the farm, and I thought she was coming back to help us, but she's really coming back to marry our help. That was all right. Drake, the middle son, far right, the dark-headed one, he knew he wanted to come back. And Lydia and I were animal science graduates, and back then, you learned all about the science of production, but you learned nothing hardly about business. And we've been very short in the business skills, the accounting skills, the financial skills. So we encouraged him. He wanted to come back and go study ag economics, and he did. And then the young one, Corbin, on the far left, he's the kind of the farmer of the crowd, and he went off to Clemson and studied ag business and mechanization. But all four of those did internships. And even as young folks on the farm, we tried to give them responsibility. We had a very young age, they had their own sweet corn business. And it just happened to be sweet corn because that's something that we could do. But they would have to, they had to understand the finances. They had to help with the planting, and the harvesting's the worst. Going to the sweet corn patch every morning, getting wet from the chest down. And maybe the most important part of that was going to sit on the back of the truck for most of the day or until you sold that truckload of corn. Learning about, that everybody don't like a worm in the end of their corn, or they're going to mash on it, fill on it, complain about it. But it's been very good education. And lo and behold, other neighbor kids thought it was pretty cool and they wanted to come help. And we've always tried to open our farm up, and I encourage you to do that, to other folks that want to learn about what we do. Usually young, but it could be older. It's amazing to me how many folks have had a career in one profession, and it's been their dream all their life to get to retire to a farm, or even to start a farm. So when we say beginning farmers, it isn't always just the young. Lots of times it's a little more seasoned in age. We told our kids they had to stay gone 4 years. It could be college. Ours chose college, but this is our son, Drake. He did internships. He went and lived a summer in the feedlot in western Kansas where we feed our steers. Lived with that family. He went and spent a summer at Sitz Angus Ranch in Montana, one of the premier Angus operations. He said that was too cold for him. It came a blizzard on Memorial Day. He said, Mama, next summer, well, first he said, Mama, if I break my arm, you think I can come home? She said, heck no. He said, well, I'm going somewhere warmer next summer. So next summer he went down to the Kemper Brothers in Florida on a Brahma and Angus outfit. Our youngest son, Corbin, was more of the farmer, such that he went to a bulk customers in South Georgia, big row croppers, peanuts, cotton, corn, and commercial cattle. He also did an internship with a potato farm, Wathers, and also to another commercial cattle and row crop operation. Daughter Sally, this is one she did at Certified Angus Beef, also did one at Clemson Extension, a large peach and vegetable packing facility. And I just tell you that because it allowed them to go out and gain different experiences. Lydia and I had given them all that we could give them, which wasn't much, but it allowed them to go out and learn. And it allowed them to know that maybe we weren't just the toughest bosses that ever were. Under each instance, maybe other than this one, they lived and worked with other farm families. So they learned from them about transition planning and succession planning and simple things like days off and weekends off and that kind of thing. So that's been very helpful that they brought all that knowledge back to us. Same like, and I encourage you to do this. We have always entertained interns in our place. And it has been very gratifying to us. And hopefully it's been very helpful to young folks or older folks that just simply want to learn what we do. And it really sharpens our mind. And it is work. Believe me, it is work to host them. But you get the right ones, it can be a tremendous, help to you. Backing up here. I mentioned that ours started out a small family operation. Today, that's the big family. And all of those are not full-time employees. That picture was taken right around Christmas, and we all had lunch together. Some of those are part-time employees. Some of those are folks that just have a job in town, and they enjoy what we do. So on their days off, they'll come spend it with us. And they're good at lots of things, and we'll sure put them to work. I put that out there, and it's a tremendous responsibility. As I look at that, our farm is responsible for feeding about 12 different families. And that could, if you let it, that'll let you lay awake at night. But we've been very blessed that they want to do it, and that the farm has provided for them. But we're big believers that, number one, you got to be very passionate about what we do. No one's just probably going to knock down the door and come want to help us on the farm because of the pay, or the hours, or the weather conditions. They got to want to do it. And as hard as we may look for people, we'll never find that perfect person. I think our standards need to be very high, but people are different. So we've tried to concentrate on getting the right people on the bus, and then getting those people in the right seat. And that's the most important part. We all have strengths and weaknesses, but trying to capitalize on folks' strengths and get them where they need to be. We're a motley crew. And looking back, a lot of those folks have never had any farm experience. And there may be some of the best team members. There's folks in that picture that are some of the smartest people I know. There's some folks in that picture that their education's been limited to about the 7th grade. They're just as valuable in their own way. There's folks in there that have do battle or have battled alcohol and drug addiction problems. There's folks in there that, there's a lady that's about where the Yon Farm all is. She's in her 60s. And darn it, she ain't the best cowgirl I've ever seen. She's been a nurse, drove a bus all her life, had cows, and that's what she wanted to do, and she is a wonderful hand. It could have been just as easy to say, you're a female, you get a little old, and I'm not sure we need you. But she's wonderful. So to us, it doesn't matter if you're black or white or male or female, as long as you're passionate about what you do and have a good work ethic and you're honest. There's even a Navy SEAL in that picture. Can you believe that? He's been a career protecting our country as a Navy SEAL, and now he wants to do what we do. You never know if you just kind of open your eyes. And I say that because Mr. Ruff was a perfect example of it here. Sometimes it's not family. And if we wait on that family person to take over our operation, we might be sorely disappointed. Or if we pressure that family person that that's their obligation or that's their responsibility, and if they don't really have that burning desire in their heart, then it's probably not going to work out either. So I commend Mr. Ruff for what he did, and I commend Johnny and Melanie and their family for what they're doing. This is our 3 kids. This is back when we first started. We built the barn. They were, if you look closely, daughter Sally's prim and proper. She's got all the answers. She's the boss. Young son Drake's got his arms crossed. He is mad and pouting about something. Young Corbin's being the clown. Now, 25 years later, our days are, some days start off about like that. We change roles. Who's going to be the clown? Who's going to be pouting? Who's going to have all the answers? But it is it's very gratifying to work with family. But those of you who do it know that it can have its challenges as well. This is son Drake with some corn that we've grown for silage. I think when we get family members to be involved in our operation, whether they're just helping part-time or they come back full-time, or if we get someone even outside of family that has shown a keen interest in what we do, like Johnny with Mr. Ruff, I think we've got to give them responsibilities. We've got to, and we've had to do it simply because we can't do everything. I'm just not that smart to think of everything and be at best. As this picture reminds me, it's Greg's job to pick out our hybrid seed varieties. We'll spend $40,000 to $50,000 buying seed corn. It's a big decision. I don't have the time or haven't taken the time to look at all the trials, but that's his responsibility. And I got to trust that he's making the very best decision for our farm. That's just a small example of us handing out responsibilities and giving folks room to fail. And I have quickly learned that already our children, and not just our children, some other young folks or even older folks that are on our staff, are way better at a lot of things than I am and make way better decisions than I do. Talking about decisions, we're cattle folks, we're really grass folks, we just have to use cattle to harvest our crop. But as families or operations get bigger or things tighten up and we aren't sure that we're going to, we're going to be able to make it long term, I think we always got to be looking for other opportunities. Sometimes we got to go out and find those opportunities, but sometimes they just kind of fall in our lap as this does. Who knows what that is? That's a pecan orchard. We say pecans. When they're worth a lot of money, they say pecan. And when they're not worth very much money like that, we say pecans. But that's a pecan orchard. Got nice crimson clover. We planted that in the middle, so it gives the supplies nitrogen. And we never knew we were going to be in the pecan business. But this was our neighbor, the young fellow right there in the middle, Mr. Joe Cal Watson. He was, he's 96 years old today, a wonderful individual, a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge. He spent his whole lifetime raising pecans. He's got adult, grown children, grown grandchildren. They all moved away. No one had any interest in carrying on this legacy. He loves the pecan like we love grass and cattle. 3 years ago, it was harvest time. He made a crop. 93 years old. He fell and broke his hip. Had to go to the nursing home. Had one full-time employee. Was fairly aged himself. And his children had to go to him and say, Mr. Joe, it's time to sell the farm. He didn't want to sell the farm. That was his whole legacy. I don't know how he thought he was going to harvest that crop with a broke hip at the nursing home, but he did want to do it. But he finally, I think he saw his children were pretty serious about it. They didn't want to do it. And he said, I'll sell it under one condition, for Yon to buy it. So here come the children to us and said, Daddy said y'all got to buy our pecan orchard. This was October. The crop was on the trees. We have a bull sale in October. We had plenty to do. And my wife Lydia said, well, when would y'all like for us to do this? They said, right now. And that's what we did. We had a family meeting. We didn't know if it would work or not. We didn't even know, he's our closest neighbor. We watched what he'd done for 20 years, but we were doing our own cow and grass thing. We didn't really know about it. Young son Drake over there in the orange shirt, he said, it'll work. We said, how do you know it'll work? He said, well, in my Ag Economics senior project, I did the viability of a pecan orchard, a pecan farm, and I think we can make it work. So that's what we did. It's been a good investment. Mr. Joe had started this retail business, the Nut House. That was his business, his retail front in our little town of Fish Spring, right there on Main Street. It is very, very suiting for our family, the Nut House. We take those pecans, and young son Corbin, remember, he's the farmer. He acts like he don't like the cow, but he's very good for cow. I think he's supposed to be different than his brother and sister. But that was right up his alley. He came right out of school. We said, look, and he was part of the decision. He wanted to do it. But we said, you don't have to do it. You're going to be in charge of growing it. Somebody's got to learn it. They got to learn it well. They got to learn it quick. We can't lose any money. It's your baby. He was ready for it. But he gave him a place. It gave him his own place. Young son Drake marries a young lady from Maine, from New England, who'd never been hardly on a farm. She was a food science and human nutrition major. They get married, guess what? The Nut House is the perfect place for her to use her degree about food science. We take those nuts, we shell them, we crack them, we clean them, we make all kind of candies out of them, we make pecan pies. It was just perfect for her to have a place on our operation. Our retail store, we also sell our farm-raised freezer beef there, and we also sell other local products that come from our area, whether those be vegetables or fruits or jams or ice cream or cooks and blue cheese. So I just tell you all that, and I was talking with Johnny and Melanie, and they grow apples and grow peaches and make cider. So sometimes maybe we have to expand our way of thinking a little bit if indeed we want farm to be a full-time occupation or to be viable for the long term. It says this is a people business. I spent a lot of time talking about family. I've talked about employees. We think of our employees as being family. I hope they think of us that way. We depend a lot on specialists or partners. It is hard to be good at everything. And we have had a very, very close working relationship with extension services from all across the Southeast. We want to find the best specialist, whether that be the best forage person or the best economic person or wherever. And we want their help. And we don't use their help because we just simply aren't great at everything. We don't have partners, people that we buy inputs from, seed, chemical, whatever. If they've got a product and they come to us and they say, we've got this greatest product, we want to sell it, you need to buy it. That's probably not a good fit for us. We want to buy products from people that, number one, offer a very high quality product, but will service that product, help us along the way, that look to us as partners. Even in our seed stock business, we've learned that our success hinges on our customer success. The only way we're going to be successful is with people that buy our products successful. So that's the kind of partnership that we like. Neighbors. We all know how important neighbors are. As I deliver bulls across the Southeast, I see so many small towns that's drying up. And it breaks my heart, and it breaks everybody's heart. But we have to be sustainable, we have to care about our communities, and we have to give back to our communities. I see some of you with volunteer fire hats on and coats. I know what kind of folks you are. You care about your community, or 4-H leaders, or church groups, or whatever. I think that's what's built these small rural communities across the country is an agricultural sector. So we take our eyes off that. Probably somewhere in here, maybe back up there at Partners, I ought to mention financing. That was part of my title. I probably just went volunteer to talk about financing. But as you might guess, a startup operation like ours, we had to have financing. To start with, we had saved up because that had been our dream forever to have a farm, but it didn't go very far. So we went to FSA, and no one else would have touched us, but they gave us that beginning farmer program, and we paid it back. And over time, they weaned you off, and you can't borrow anymore and put more employee money from FSA. But to me, it was government at work. They gave us a leg up rather than hand out, and to me, that's the way it should work. Our two sons have both bought farms since they finished college with those beginning farmer program dollars. They also, all three children, participate in NRCS contracts. After we kind of FSA booted us out, we've done business with Farm Credit, Ag America, and also our private lending institution. We both came from families that didn't really believe in borrowing very much money. That was a new mindset for us, and it's something that I don't think we ever should feel very comfortable in. But on major assets like land and that kind of thing, that's what we've had to do. We've tried not to borrow a lot of money just to buy equipment, cows, or something that would depreciate, but we have used financing to expand our operation. Network and be involved in the industry. That's what you folks are doing right here today. You're part of something. You're giving back, whether that be the Forage and Grassland Council, or the county, or the state, or the National Cattlemen's Groups, Farm Bureau. I think we've got to be involved. We've got a voice. We can let other people make policy, or we can be part of that policy. We can let other people tell our story to the general public, or we can tell our story. And I can promise you, I've decided it's the easiest thing just to stay at home and just work. That's the easiest thing to do. Y'all know neighbors that have done that. But for agriculture to be viable and sustainable for generations to come, I think it's incumbent upon us that we've got to tell our story. We have a lot of groups come through our farm, a lot of ag groups and also non-ag groups. And we have found that if we just be very transparent and let them show them anything, we're castrating that day, we don't let them see it. We don't tell them why we castrate. And guess what? They usually get it. They get it. These are people that are vegans and got all kind of ear piercing and piercing in every part of the body that you can see, but they get it. You know, if we just explain, not make them everybody get it, but most of them will get it. We just got to explain it to them. We got to show them and let them see it. And I think in general the public likes us. I think they trust us. They're very concerned about where their food comes from, and no longer can we just say, by George, we're doing the right thing, that we're science-based, and we're doing the right thing. It's beyond that anymore. Yes, we got science on our side, but we got to meet the consumer where they are. And they're very emotional. They're very, they've got lots of disposable income. And maybe you say, well, shoot, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, you don't have to do it. But if maybe if we want to make a living at it and want this thing to be long-term, maybe we have to change that mindset. I've got to listen to the older and the wiser. And I should change that and put younger, because I've learned just as much from those young interns that ask all those questions. Then maybe not just as much, but I've learned a lot. I've learned that we need to depend on folks that have had that experience, like Mr. Ruff. Do you think Mr. Ruff and Johnny are going to agree on everything? Do you think sometimes Johnny's going to come up with the idea and Mr. Ruff's going to say, I don't know about that? Johnny, if it had to happen, it will. But we've on both sides, we got to understand that. And don't always just classify folks that we want to get advice from by what they have or their education or who they are. These two men in the lower left-hand corner have helped us as much as anybody. They're the guys that when we bought our farms or rented farms, they were the guys that had been there all their lives. Who was more valuable to us than two smart men that had spent their lifetimes on that farm? They knew every inch of that farm. You got to have a vision. This is a portable corral, old panels in the woods, one of those wet winters like last winter. We bred 200 cows. They got 200 cows in that portable corral. It's one of those deals where you lose your boots, you say words that you should never say in Sunday school. And it's a wonder if you have any help or family left when you were done, but some way you got through it. But you got to have a vision, so we can't do that again. And it might be a new facility, or it might be a new fence, or it might be a better way of water trough or a pipeline. As we start a new year, it's hard to believe we're starting a new decade, 2020. And all of us have got things that we want to do, and we got to have vision for those things. We got to try new things. Or maybe just continue things that we have done. Some of the new things that we've done on our place, we're growing some of our own forage seeds. We're growing triticale for seed. We're growing oats. We're growing wheat. Remember, I had that son that likes to farm. Well, we just can't let him farm just because he likes to farm. But if it can be something to help make us more profitable and make him happier, that's what we've been. We've been predominantly Angus. That's what I've been our blood. But we had customers that came to us and said, look, I want to use a Sim-Angus. I want to use an Ultra Black. Well, we didn't really want to do that, really. It's more work, more associations, and more dues, all those things. But we either could watch them drive by our farm to the place that did sell them, or we could try to meet their demands and provide them for them. We've mentioned the pecan operation. We've grown some of more of our feedstuffs than we ever have. That might be a decision that you choose to grow to discontinue that. But I think we've got to be willing to change mindsets. And sometimes it's more than just it's got to be economical, but sometimes there's other reasons that are beyond economics. Lots of times, young folks will ask us, well, you know, I just don't have enough cows, or I don't have enough acres to be a full-time farmer. How do I make it? And we've had to do this along the way. There's many ways that we can supplement our incomes on the farm while also networking and meeting new people and create more opportunities. Just some that come to mind is a good fence builder. We're always, and have customers, is always looking for a good, honest fence builder that does a good job. Dr. Understander mentioned, what if you had a wrapper and you were very reliable and didn't overpromise and underdeliver your services, or a custom hay bale, or went around AI and cows, or just helping people work their cows, or freeze branding, or clipping, or whatever. There's a lot of jobs that, at least in our area, if we have good people to do those, the opportunities would almost be unlimited. One of the ways that we've been able to grow our farm over the years is, I like win-wins. And this is a farm in which we rent. An older couple decided that it was time to retire. They bought bulls from us for 20 years, lived within 3 miles of us, and numerous of them have come to us. And this thing goes something like this. Number one, though, they had to watch us. We moved to a new area, remember? We went from there. They didn't know us. They thought we were absolutely crazy. Bringing 100 cows, a wore-out pickup truck, 3 little youngins that used to run around in the yard without any clothes on. But they watched us. And it took a year or two. And that they saw that we were trying, and they saw that we were going to be honest, and they saw that we were going to work hard, and they saw that we were going to try to take care of the places and make them better, whether we own the land or not. And they would come to us and it'd go like this. I don't have anybody that's in the family that's interested. I really don't want to move. I like my house. I like my farm. But we're just tired and just don't want to do it anymore. Would you buy our cows? And by the way, we don't like paying taxes, so we like to finance them, and you pay for them a little bit at a time. We say, okay, I guess that's fine. We want to rent you our places, but this is key. We've watched how you take care of your place, and we want you to keep our place just like you keep your place. Those opportunities, I can count up 6 or 7 of those, from 20 cows to 250 cows. All within a fairly short radius around our place. Did it happen overnight? No, it didn't. They had to learn us. This isn't a business for the impatient. This is a business that takes time. It takes a lifetime to build reputations. That's how we grow. And I look at it as a win-win. That landowner still has their farm. They still have their house. They're helped. Even some of them help us when they want to help us. But on the cold days or the hot days, they might be doing something else. So it's been win-win. So I would, whether you're on our side of it or maybe on the other side, I'd just ask you to think about giving other people those opportunities, much like Mr. Ruff did over there. There's nothing wrong with being bullheaded. If you're right. I'm very optimistic about our business. You know, I'll be very honest with you. The rural America has been strained. It's been stressed over recent years. We know what commodity prices have been. We've seen what calf prices have been. We've seen what our input prices have been. But I feel optimism. We've got some trade agreements that I realize there's a lot of rhetoric from each side. Some of these trade agreements could be very, very favorable to our business. We have a lot of new technology. You know, just think about, even in my short time, what I've seen going to round bales. What if it was all just steel square bales? How many cows would be in this country if we didn't have the round baler? Now we got round balers that we make silage out of. Before long, they're going to map production. They're going to check moisture. As Dr. Understander said, they may even spit that bale out. It's got a tag with relative feed quality, relative feed value. It's exciting to be what's been done. We've got herbicides that's coming that we're going to be able to spray over our pastures and not damage our white clover. There's just a lot of things to be optimistic. And we've got young people that are interested in our industry. A lot of young ladies, too, especially. If you go to the land-grant universities across the country, there's young people that maybe they don't want to come back to the farm, but they're interested in our industry. And to me, that's very refreshing. It's been a pleasure to be with you. I feel very blessed to get to do what I do and get to bring a very little piece of our farm to you. And And all of you are welcome to come visit us at any time. My wife and daughter put this in here, and you other purebred guys don't throw rocks at me. You're welcome anytime you would like to come see Yon Family Farms, but we'd especially like to have you on February 15th as we sell 200 bulls and 75 females. And if you would like to get a catalog, I've got an address book for there. I'll take your address. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I don't know if we've got time for questions, but thank you.
I think we can take questions, but what I'd like to do is open the floor up for Dr. Undersander and for you, Kevin and Bobby. If around here want to come on up, and people can ask questions about farm transition, alternate forage plans, forage harvest management, grade 300, any of that. Questions? Yes, Mr. Russell. That was you, huh? Well, remember Mr. Yon said, there's nothing wrong with being bullheaded if you're right.
I have a question. Understand the bailies, we've been doing it for a number of years, and then we do self-custom. We've always had the question, people always ask, how long can I feed the hay once it goes in the tube? How long does it have to stay before I can feed? You know, we usually make it and then feed it till fall of the year, but, you know, I've read some stuff, but I never really.
Yeah, so the question is once you make the bale, put the hay in the tube, or bale, how fast can you feed it? And the answer is immediate. You know, if you look at those graphs, it'll be a little warm for a few days, but the cattle will eat anything under 100 degrees, so that's not a big issue. You're not, I think what some of the people are thinking about is if you make silage in a bunker, we figure that it takes alfalfa about 3 weeks to fully ferment, corn about 2 weeks. But again, that's really not an issue here. And there's nothing anti-palatable or detrimental to the cattle, so you can wrap it today and feed it tomorrow. Good question. Yes.
How long can you leave it stored?
Sure, how long can you leave it stored? Until the plastic breaks down. So my general recommendation is to try to figure on feeding it within 9 to 12 months. But the big problem with the plastic is the sunlight breaking down the plastic. So if you keep it in the shade, if you do buy a good plastic, I've kept it 2 or 3 years without a problem. But it does take good plastic, and a little bit of shade is helpful.
I got a question. I got a couple of neighbors up there, lots of machine, puts around bale up in and kind of chops it, hay runs it, hay for one run.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Will that pay?
Which, by the way, before I'll answer your question in just a second. The one thing that I forgot to mention about inline wrapping is when you make an inline wrap, which direction do you make it? You go east to west or north to south? There's some really good blank stairs there, you know? It actually does make a difference. First, north to south is the direction you always make an inline tube. So the sun goes over the tube and heats both sides of it. If you go east to west, the sun just hits the south side, and then the moisture moves to the other side of the bale, and you can run into some issues. Now, coming back to your question, what was the question again? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So a bale feeder and putting it underground, actually Alberta's done quite a bit of that. I frankly am not too in favor of it because there is a pretty high wastage. So you have to look at how much is the hay worth to and those sorts of things. I have seen people put a windrow like that out, and then, we saw somebody put some poly wire down the middle of it so the cattle won't walk on it. Well, then you can get up towards about 70% utilization. But if you just spread it out and let cattle trample it, you're probably down around 40% utilization. If that's okay, then that's what it is. Any other questions?
That's a good question, Hank. The question is, our children have been back, I think the longest they've been back is about 6 years, 4 to 6 years, and about how we started with transitional or succession planning. We have started. It is a slow and painful process, and don't let me scare you off from starting, because we all really need to have a plan. And it's only fair that our family knows the plan. But we sought out what we hope is the best estate attorney in our state. It becomes very expensive, but what better way to spend the money? That's sure not a place to skimp. We broke it up into phases. We've just barely completed phase 1, which was kind of the easy stuff. Phase 2 is more of the harder stuff. We wanted to give that some time. The kids have only been back 4 to 6 years. That's really not a lot of time. The worst thing in the world is that they stay there and not being fulfilled or not being happy. And we wanted them to give them that chance to be sure that's what they want to do. And so far it is. And so that will help us go into phase 2 about how to go through transition planning and succession planning. A lot of those things work themselves out on their own. Who's going to be the leader? Who's going to be the leader when mom and dad's not there, or when something happens to them? In our family, it's kind of gravitated to one son. He is, and the other children are fine for that. They didn't have to fight it out or anything. He just naturally that was more of his personality. Not that he really wanted to do it, I don't think, but he's kind of the leader. So some of those things will work out on their own. I'll also encourage you, I mentioned about you got to leave the farm. I've been involved in some Angus and cattleman stuff where it's required some travel away from the farm. And again, it's easier to stay home. But had I not left the farm to go do these things, then the young folks would never have had to make those decisions. If I'm there, I feel like it's probably my place to make a lot of those decisions. Wrongfully, many times. But if you're gone, if I'm here, today they're having to make a lot of decisions. And sometimes we've got to have them room to make those decisions. And I promise you, when you get back home, you might think, I might have made a different decision. But if you give it a little bit of time, sometimes their way is better anyway. But we're in that process to get back to your question about transitional planning. And all 3 of our kids are there. But we talked about it, if one had decided not to come back, and I don't know how we would handle that, but I'm not a person that thinks fair is equal. Fair to me is not equal. If one child or 2 child comes back and they don't make a lot of money, but they're giving a lot of blood and sweat and equity, to me that means a lot. So if another child had chose a different path, we'll try to take care of that child, but they would not have been getting an equal share of the farm. Our goal is to try to keep that farm together.
Other questions?
Weed control, fences, and fire ants in your area.
Weed control, permanent fencing, and fire ants.
Yeah.
Okay? Boy, those are the 3 bad words, aren't they? Weed control, we have lots of weeds. We have fertile soil. We try to keep fertility high. We use roller litter. All of us know when the conditions are good to grow grass, guess what? They're good to grow weeds. So we have lots of weeds. We do spray for weeds. We use herbicides. We try to use them judiciously, not wastefully. economically, but we do use herbicides. It has restricted us some on the amount of lagoons that we have on our farm because of the weed program, so we do try to control weeds. There again, remember, we rent a lot of land. Those landowners like their pastures fairly weed-free. So that's important. Spray we on fencing. Primarily, we use high tensile electric fencing, 3-wire, 4-wire, 5-wire, 6-wire. We do have some cattle on some fairly busy highways, and we have learned that we will get some baby calves that go through that, even a 6-wire high tensile fence. And then we get the call about the baby calf on the side of the road, and it scares us to death. We think the whole herd's out. We go there and he's just laying in the ditch. But so on our perimeter fencing, especially along busy areas, we've gone more to the fixed knot woven wire, like Millie White, others sell over here, the stays up wire. Our perimeter, we're using that, using a hot wire offset, so that we can use hot wires to do cross fencing or control grazing. That's what we're doing. Fencing, what was the last one? Fire ants.
All that acreage.
Yeah, we've got lots of fire ants. There's ways, I guess, that you could control fire ants, but that's the one battle we don't fight. We just let them have at it. I guess if they out in the yard where our grandchildren are playing, we'll try to run them out the backyard. But we found that, like a lot of problems, the better we manage, it kind of seems to run them off to the neighbors, or at least to the under the fence posts, but we just never fire. Use dismores, don't use bars anymore, use dismores.